Are you all ready for another tutorial? This is just a mini tutorial on table runner number 3 from the Quilted Cow. This is a variable pattern, which means the blocks in the center can be different sizes based on whether you're using a panel or just a piece of fabric. And you can make adjustments to this pattern just by doing a little bit of quilt math. All the layout and information is here, but it does have some variation based on what you choose as this middle block. I choose this super fun The Quilted Cow sent me some really cute, fun fabric for summer that I could use, and this will look great on my summer porch table. Step 1 is to select your main fabric. I'm using a super fun pattern, but you could use a panel, you could use something that you fussy cut. You could even do an embroidery block, so embroidery a piece of fabric and put it in the center as the main. This time I cut these blocks to 9 1/4 inch. Next, you're going to take 3 to 5 different types of fabrics, and we're going to make what's called a panicky. A panicky basically is little rectangles that go together, and they can be used on edging on all sorts of things. Sometimes I do things just a little bit varied from the pattern that I'm provided, just to make it a little easier on myself, or because I think I might like it better. And this is one of those cases. Okay, instead of cutting these into little rectangles right now, what I'm going to do is put them together into sets like this, and then I'm going to sew those sets together, and then I'm going to chop up those sets so they'll be like this, and that will become my little border. Those are called panikies. I'm just sewing a 1/4 inch seam. Notice I'm using my 1/4 inch seam foot here. Okay, so normally in a strip set, which is what I just showed you, I would do 3 at a time. What I realized is that the way I cut my blocks, and this is why this pattern is variable, I'm going to need about 4, 5, probably 5, and then I'm going to end up trimming down the edges just a little bit to make all of this work. This pattern requires a cornerstone. Cornerstones are kind of cool. Cornerstones are what you see like if you do sashing on a quilt, so edging on the side of blocks. Sometimes they'll have these cornerstones in like where all 4 corners come together to give it just a little bit of space. The pattern calls for us to cut out 3 1/2 inch block cornerstone. Here's what that means. That means that my strip set needs to get cut down to 3 1/2 inches to match. So as it goes across this way, it's going to be the same length as my block, and as it comes here, it's going to connect to my cornerstone, which will be 3 1/2 inches. So I'm gonna chop this up a little bit, and I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna be over just a little bit on my edges. See how I am? A little bit over on my edges. That's totally okay. We're just gonna trim those up. And yes, some of you are like, oh my gosh, that's gonna make all your rows uneven. It will make it a little uneven. Alternatively, what you can do is you can do the full quilt math and figure out how much do I need to trim these down or things like that. I just didn't feel like doing that. So these blocks are 9 1/4. Had I added in the borders on this, this would have all worked out fine. But I didn't add the border on this block. So that's why I'm doing a little bit extra cutting. It doesn't bother me that there's just a little bit of trimming to do too. Okay, so here's the deal. After I put this together, I realized I should have done block 1 the same way I did block 2, which was put the top and bottom strips on the block, then sewed the cornerstones on the side panikies, both top and bottom, and then sewed it all together that way. It would have made it a lot easier. It's easier to see when you see how I did the second block. Okay. So on the next block, just sew the top and the bottom because you've already got the cornerstones here. Then you're going to match it all up right like this. We're going to sew it together, and then we're going to make one more with the cornerstones that looks like this block. So it's super, super simple once you get going. Okay, so I've done the final piece here. I could do 2 or 3 more. I've got enough fabric to make this 3 or 4 long if I really wanted to. But I'm just going to do a couple long because it's plenty big for where I'm going to use it. I'm just going to pin these seams and sew it all together. Ta-da! Here's the final product.